Alright guys, here we are yet again with another exciting trailer for the upcoming My Hero Academia film, World Heroes Mission. Now as compared to the trailer before, this one was most definitely action oriented, and so you already know that the hype levels are out of this world. If you are excited for My Hero Academia Movie 3 and at any point find yourself enjoying our coverage of it, be sure to subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on. So to begin with this one, we re-enter the familiar scene in which the ever-radicalized cult known as Humanize has gathered. But this time around we have some directly related dialogue in which their leader, Fleckturn, speaks to them of their grandiose purpose and its necessary fulfillment, even if it comes down to bloodshed. And it is thanks to this trailer that we are actually able to hear our main antagonist here, and again, this is the very same voice actor behind Zoro from One Piece, and so for me at least, it is a pretty familiar performance and one that I'm excited to see more of. Beyond this, we get to see a few of our heroic teams in transit and or during a debriefing. First up, we have Fat Gum and the gang fighting for Japan. Then Sero and the others fighting in Egypt. Then lastly, there's Ryukyu and her girls in France. And we also get a glimpse at our 1A Big Three, who seem to be in a troubling predicament of some sort. Now, judging by the lighting here and such, I believe we have already seen Shoto here by his lonesome in the trailer before. Not to mention, Deku is also wearing that farmer boy brown overall fit he had when we saw him on the run and ripping up the very ground beneath him. So suffice to say, this is probably around the time where things begin to hit the fan. Things are bad and they are coming up with a plan of action, how to resolve their issues. But moving on, we have the gas-induced terrorist attack previously seen with trailer 1, but just after it is where my excitement levels began to rise like crazy, as it seems like Humanize, in their efforts to cleanse the world of quirks, have somehow found a way to overload quirks. Now this sort of reminds me of the drug trigger, but as opposed to merely empowering quirks, this seems to overpower them to an unsustainable degree. And it is absolutely genius. Ultimately, the desire behind things like this from such a passionate group isn't simply to cause indiscriminate violence, it is to send a message and make a point. And if you happen to be a singularity contrarian, it is hard to deny this sort of evidence. To the point where even if the powers that be continue to disagree, the people, in their fear of such a thing ever happening again, may be persuaded in mass to force the issue and bring about that desired change. Now somehow, Deku wound up being wanted for this crime of mass murder. Yes, this goofy looking high school freshman from Japan has somehow been attributed to this ever calculated plot of worldwide genocide. Now, I don't know what he could have done to have led to this sort of not only assumption but apparent confirmation, but this is by far the most extreme case of defamation I have ever seen, and to a child no less. Like, there are so many issues with this sort of thing that it is pretty hilarious. And I mean, come on, we all know how the internet works. Even if Deku is later proven innocent of all charges, there will always be those people who still believe him to be a danger or threat. And even for himself mentally, to know that you were framed of that sort of thing, people believed you to be all that, it's definitely taxing. And that sort of thing can easily ruin a career forever. But of course, I doubt it's gonna ever get that philosophical or deep. And so with that, a more reasonable question to ask ourselves would be, was this intended? Did they want Deku to be framed here, or did they want the credit for themselves? Because that can lead to a few different instances of conflict. It could be that this was all just a misunderstanding, but it means that Fleckturn and his goons have to step it up a notch to make sure that they are able to claim this crime. But from here, we then have Shoto and Bakugo still in casual attire on a train ride. There's an explosion followed by Roddy jumping from roof to roof, then sliding down some rails, which just makes me want Skate 4 even more. After this, we have the police, and a lot of them at that, and they are not playing around here, people. They are not only pointing their guns, but immediately began to unload on these two fleeing children. Like, goodness gracious, there is no chill in Ocean. What is the fictional location Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto will be in for the film? Like, damn, what is in that briefcase? But Deku would come to Roddy's rescue here, which would prompt the kid to clarify the narrative that Deku is a murderer and he is his henchman. And then just after that, we have Deku opening up the back of a phone. Like, oh my lord, this movie has no chill. Like, we went from heroes to thugs in a snap. And for some reason, from here, we go into a sort of montage of hands, and during this we have a peculiar item in someone's hands that is perhaps of great importance, perhaps the content of that briefcase or something like that. But just before the next shot, we get to see what appears to be a SIM card or a micro SD drop on top of it. Bakugo is locked and loaded, that Robin Hood looking lady seems to be throwing down some ball bearings, we then have a montage of cars crashing followed by the fact that Humanize has begun a live stream of some sort, more hand shots for whatever reason from Bakugo and Shoto for one seems to be underwater. We then have some members of Humanize fighting, as one of them looks to be a bit of a loudmouth with a quirk perhaps similar to Present Mike, as the others just pull out the straps and let the shells fly. We have a shot of General Headquarters where All Might will be for the duration of the film, observing the global crisis just as Humanize begins to override their projector, a bunch of random things from here and there. Then we have who we may assume will be fighting Shoto, as this big behemoth emerges from some water and has his hands bound by ice connected to a chrysalis of some sort. We have our characters rushing into the inner sanctum of Fleckturn, followed by Shoto and Bakugo preparing themselves for battle. Deku delivers a punch. Again, Shoto is out in the rain using his ice to deflect an incoming attack. A battle-damaged Bakugo is fighting back against an unseen enemy in an aerial battle. Endeavor is propelling through the air, and with it being daytime, this is probably where he is holding onto something, attempting to stop it. There's Hawks flying in America, this blonde hero lady whose name we don't know yet as she uses a quirk, while also presumably using a communicator. We have Gang Orca and his goons on a rooftop, some ogre Oni looking character deflecting an attack with Roddy nearby, this purple haired guy with a creepy smile that looks to replicate himself, doing so in a way that I imagine will be more illusory than tangible considering we have twice. Then there's that scary thing Shoto ends up fighting again, breaking through a bit of smoke. Deku versus Fleckturn as the two use their moves in quick succession. We have some teamwork between Sero and Mineta, Kirishima withstanding the blows of some villain that appears to also possess some sort of hardening quirk based on their hands and the sparks upon impact. Ochako doing her thing, Jiro doing her thing, then Sue seems to be up against some reptilian Reptar wannabe. Sato looks cooler than he ever has before. Shoji is doing his thing. Momo is over here knocking some sense into these cultists like piñatas, while Big Red Dot, the professional hero lion guy, expels a whole lot of water from his mouth with his quirk Big Wave, which I imagine is done for the sake of extinguishing these flames nearby. We have Shoto in the process of making that aforementioned ice chrysalis, Bakugo who is again battle damaged, Deku who is bleeding at this point but still has plenty of fight left in him. Then we take a step back to Bakugo just before becoming battle damaged, as he seems to have taken a hit to the eye, as in those other shots one eye does remain closed. There is Shoto entering a giant fiery mouth, and let me just say I for one am most interested in Shoto's fight here because it seems like it is all kinds of crazy. We have Deku and Fleckturn charging up their fists against one another, which looks really cool. And let me say, for them to collide here, Fleckturn is nothing to play with, man. If he is going blow for blow with this kid's crazy strength, you already know that he has got to be crazy strong. We also have Roddy with that very same purple lighting that we spoke of earlier. But listen, getting back to that punch, the aftermath is just insane. And not only that, but Deku looks like he is the one struggling here. So again, Fleckturn is the real deal. We have Roddy smiling softly as the trailer ends up being concluded just like the one before it, as Deku refuses to back down and the power of plot armor moves him to strike yet again, and that was the trailer. This movie is now less than a month away from release in Japan, with it being on August 6th. Now we're still not entirely sure when it'll make its way elsewhere, but when we do know, you will know by subscribing to Plot Armor with notifications on, or even by following us over on Twitter and Instagram at PlotArmorYT. Because when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.